When asking a question like, what is the most common reason for murder for hire plots, there are several possible answers. What is the most common reason someone hires a hitman, aka a contract killer? What is the most common reason a contract killer kills? What is the most common reason these events happen at all? We're going to address all three of these questions here because, in my opinion, they're actually all interrelated. But before we get started, I'm also curious what you think the most common reason for murder for hire is. Pause the video now and drop your answer in the comments. But please only look at other people's posts after you've finished the experiment so you don't bias your answer. But I will say that as I'm making this video, it's my best bet that if I asked most people what the most common reason for murder for hire plots are, they would say organized crime. And in a sense, they may be right because these hitmen can accrue a huge kill list before being apprehended. But they're actually the third most common reason for murder for hire plots. The third most common murder for hire plots are organized crime hits done by professional contract killers. Though, could it be the case that fewer of the murders are detected? And so, not only are fewer of the murderers caught, but fewer of them are known by criminologists and law enforcement? These hits are done because the victim owes a great deal of money to a criminal organization, obviously at least more than the hit costs. Or the victim is a liability to that organization, say for instance a witness to other crimes, or a stool pigeon, or the victim is competing with their criminal enterprise. In other words, killing rivals like other drug dealers who invade their turf. Or the victim otherwise stands in the way of their organization, for instance, a criminal prosecutor or a politician or a judge. These professional assassins are generally connected to an organized crime organization in some way already, and believe their actions are justified within the values of the group they're already involved with. Almost always their crimes are logical, adaptive, and because of the needs or wants of the organization, and not based on a personal vendetta or an easy-to-trace one-time remuneration from someone directly known to the victim. Their hits are highly planned, orderly, and systematic. Many professional-level contract killers are never caught, and so they generally live normal lives. Contrary to what you might think, these people often have strong family ties and community relationships. They are stable, sometimes even calm people, who kill as a business or a job, not because they love killing. Now don't get me wrong, some hitmen do love killing people, for instance the notorious Iceman, but the vast majority of professional contract killers are not technically serial killers because they don't get a perverse pleasure from the murder. It's just business to them. Though it has been said that the truest of friends will help you bury a body. So maybe there really is something to that after all. These assassins may also stage the scene of the crime to make it look like an accident. For instance, the victim fell over the balcony, unalived themselves, drank too much and drowned, had car issues like brake cables breaking, mysteriously were poisoned. And for all you conspiracy buffs, maybe even using acupuncture needles to give people HIV, as has been theorized to have happened to Eric Wright.
I used to know a bitch named Eric Wright. We used to roll around and fuck the hoes at night.
The weapon these contract killers select will usually be difficult to trace. Likely something common or lacking traditional identifying markers, like say using a home-built zip gun versus a special model handgun.
Buttmaster is a single-shot .22 long rifle with like a spring-loaded striker. It's like the most primitive zip gun like in history.
They usually choose the means and method before the killing as part of the planning. The killings are done swiftly with little overkill and few wounds. Sometimes the assassins will kill the victim in a blitz or ambush attack. However, mainly they will attack vital organs, usually taking headshots. These homicides just won't be as violent as a personally motivated killing because again, it's not personally motivated, and the hitman wants to leave as little physical evidence as possible. These killings generally have a medium to high payout as they're related to the crime business, and unfortunately are a necessary evil and illicit trade. The second most common reason for murder for hire is one you might have overlooked, but it's kind of obvious in hindsight. For financial gain of the person hiring the contract killer, payouts like insurance, wills, business deals, etc. These killings are usually done by a semi-professional assassin for a smaller fee than the pros charge, but still a substantial amount of money. Semi-professional hitmen usually only commit a few hits a few times in their life. They do not generally consider it a part of their employment. It's a rare side hustle opportunity. Similarly, most semi-pros are not connected to organized crime, so their services are more dangerous to advertise and less people seek them out with work. But the semi-professional contract killer is someone generally who believes the only way they can really find success in their lives is to commit crime. They generally eschew conventional values and hard work, so this kind of freelance work highly appeals to them as it's lucrative, secretive, untraditional work, gives them power over the victim, and is arguably a cool job. While they generally have few to no personality issues or psychological problems, they may have a history of violent and antisocial behavior. These hitmen are generally stable, but often not as tied into the community as a professional assassin, especially as they eschew traditional values and are likely a bit of a loner or strongly opinionated. Though again, not necessarily, just a tendency seems to be there. The semi-professional may or may not have a previous criminal record, and they likely do not kill for much, if any, personal pleasure. They have a somewhat elaborate plan before killing, though they're usually less competent than a professional contract killer because of course they're more of a novice than a professional would be, and they also probably didn't get any training and have no oversight. It's sort of weird to say, but the mafia in a sense adds oversight and tradecraft to the murder for hire system. And now, what you've been waiting for. The most common reason for murder for hire plots is problems with relationships, particularly the end of marriages, and the other spouse trying to move on, get a divorce, etc. These killings are usually done by an amateur for a smaller fee than the professional hit. They usually take the hit for a very specific gainful purpose like $1,100 in a used car, but they may be venting some type of built-up aggression or rage. The hitman is usually sought out from the people the contractor knows, and generally, the person they think about is a career criminal they know or someone that they really trust might know. The amateur hitman is usually rather unstable with adjustment issues, has some psychotic traits, and is usually someone with a criminal record. The job has a tendency to be sloppy, poorly planned, impulsive, and disorganized because the amateur assassin often has no idea what the hell they're doing, and generally fall more into the disorganized model the FBI uses for unsubs in general. These rank amateurs usually leave physical evidence. Likewise, these killings are more likely to include a secondary criminal activity like robbery, but if so, the offender is also likely youthful, very amateur, and probably of lower intelligence, especially considering they're significantly adding to the possibility of DNA and other types of physical evidence being found by touching things and rummaging through stuff. And as the spouse who did the contracting is often also an atrocious actor, these ploys are usually unraveled pretty quickly, as the stupefied assassin is easily caught in a simple-to-track web of their own lies, and of course usually confesses and tells on the contractor as soon as possible to get the best possible deal they can from the prosecution. Or as in the more salacious of these stories, they are unraveled through undercover work, and the hitman is usually just a law enforcement officer of some kind doing a sting operation. But in that case, the type of assassin and personality type has changed a bit to an undercover police officer. So, from what we've learned, it seems there are several correlations between the cost of the hit and the skill of the hit person, but also between the amount of money expected and the cost of the killing. Likewise, mafia kills are potentially the #1 type of hit. However, statistically speaking, from criminology and law enforcement data, the most common reason for murder for hire is to get rid of a lover or an ex-lover, though usually speaking, this is a spouse or an ex-spouse. This could be because of the skill and tradecraft of the mafiosos, but also because of the hit human's lack of direct connection to the case, leaving little if any physical evidence, having a clean kill, and a skillful planning of the job beforehand. In other words, the most common reason for murder for hire is to kill an ex, and the most common hit person is a career criminal known to the hiring party or someone they know who sees the job as a way to make a little extra money or to get something like a car or to help an old friend. But ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, are they most commonly now called contract killers to avoid awkward phrasing like hit person or hit human? It should be pointed out that while the vast majority of hit people are assigned male at birth, there are some famous female assassins as well, like Lucrezia Borgia. Also, since we've had this word for centuries, why not call them assassins? Is it because of the double ass in assassin? But what do you think? Are mafia hit people so good that they regularly just get away with murder? Or do you believe the more human, all too human argument that hell hath no fury like a scorned lover with bad intentions, a little bit of extra cash, and some criminal connections? And does the double ass in assassin really hinder it from being used in polite company? This is the thing we all truly want to know. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this banger right here. YouTube and I know you'll love it.